Officers arrived, and through the course of investigation, at some point, it was reported that there was an exchange of gunfire. It was reported that one of our officers was hit and has been transported to an area hospital. Currently, we do not know the status of his condition. We're waiting on that, and so I'm unable to release his name at this time. Also, we have a suspect that is in custody. His name is Nicholas Colbert, spelling Colbert. First name Nicholas, it's Nicholas, and he is 42 years of age. He also, we believe, has sustained some injuries and has been transported to an area hospital. His condition status is unknown at this time. We have asked that the Washington County Sheriff's Department conduct an investigation into what happened, and so I will let Captain Augustine answer any questions with that or give a statement.
So our criminal investigation division is on scene, and they are going to work the shooting part of the scene. Outside of that, it's an active investigation, so I can't give a lot of details on it.
So this started as a domestic disturbance. You learned that there were shots fired. At what point did this go from you knowing that there's an potentially involved shooting to this is just a domestic disturbance, and what changes when it comes to that investigation?
Sorry, is your question asking at what time this happened, or?
I guess, like, at what time did you learn it wasn't just a domestic disturbance, but it was a potential officer-involved shooting?
Typically when the officer calls that out, or a officer calls that out on the radio. It was somewhere around about 8:40, I believe, or before or after that happened. So the officers were on scene for a short period of time when the incident occurred.
So at what point when officers arrived to the domestic disturbance was the call that an officer had been shot? Was it gunfire on the outside of the house? Was it within the home?
I'm going to let you answer that.
The investigation is in its infancy right now. I couldn't tell you where the gunfire happened. I just know the address.
And then you mentioned that Nicholas Colbert, the suspect, has sustained some injuries. How did he sustain injuries?
He was injured in the gunfire.
So he has also been shot in addition to the police officer?
That's my assumption.
Was anyone else in the home when this happened?
Well, being that it was a domestic disturbance, we believe that obviously there was multiple parties that had been arguing. That's the reason why the call came out. As to who all was in the home, our officers are right now working the active domestic report and investigation, so I don't have that information currently.
Is it believed that Nicholas Colbert fired at the officer and then the officer fired in return?
I don't have any details on the order that the shots were fired or anything like that. I'm sorry.
Is anyone else injured?
At this time, not that we're aware of.
What is he charged with?
Ma'am, again, that's...
Those charges will be pending.
Yeah. Okay. This was a very active scene up until just a few moments ago, so we, as you can imagine, there's a lot of information, a lot of players that are involved in this, investigative pieces. It's going to take the night to kind of put together. So our hope is that sometime by the morning we can collect more information for you and maybe perhaps meet up again.
I spoke with a witness who told me that she believes there may have been some knife fighting in this incident. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not aware of any of that.
Do you know who made the call about the domestic disturbance? Somebody in the home?
Honestly, I have no idea at this time. That's going to be up to the investigating officers on the domestic side.
Is this a location you've been to before?
You know, I've been here 15 years. I'm familiar where the house is. I couldn't tell you whether or not we've been there on these individuals or not.
Is the suspect from Prairie Grove? Does he live in that house?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
You mentioned both the officer. You were not sure about his injuries. Do we know the extent of Colbert's injuries?
Not at this time. Like I said, he's just been transported to area hospital with known injuries. The extent we're unaware. What we do ask, though, is just we have a great community here in Prairie Grove. They're very supportive of our police department. Obviously, this is the first time an incident like this has happened here in my career. We just ask that this community come together, say a prayer for our officer tonight, and we will update the community again first thing in the morning. But thank you.
Can you say who all responded to this? Who all was here tonight? What other law
Ma'am, it
enforcement
was,
agencies?
as you can imagine, Washington County is an awesome network of law enforcement officers. Just about every department you can think of came out tonight, and we are very appreciative of all their support. We have a great cooperation with all area small towns, everyone from Springdale to Fayetteville, Washington County. I couldn't tell you who all was here because there was many officers, but I can assure you it's probably a representation of about every department. So.
You all were out for quite a while trying to get the suspect into custody, and obviously you had the gunfire exchange and whatnot. What was it that took so long to get him? Was he shot and then it took a while to get to him, or was he just fighting to come out of the home?
The preliminary information that we have is once the officer was wounded, the suspect retreated into the home, and we had to talk him into coming outside.
So his injuries, although he had been shot at this point, he was still able to walk himself or get himself into the home.
He had been injured. I can't confirm that he was shot. He'd been injured.
Oh, okay.
In the exchange.
Oh, okay.
I can't confirm what the injuries are, but yes, he was able to get himself outside.
So to confirm then, an officer was shot and then this suspect was just injured. The way he was injured, not known at this time?
There was an exchange of gunfire, and I don't know if he was shot or if he was injured in some other way. I can't confirm that.
Did he come out willingly through talks with you?
Yes. We had an officer that was negotiating over a loudspeaker trying to make contact with him, and after some time he opened the door and made his way out.
So our plan is to update you first thing in the morning. I believe all of you probably have my cell phone number. We'll get back with you first thing in the morning. We should have more information. We are waiting on information from the hospital and, of course, the investigative team. But I believe that's probably about all the questions we're going to be able to answer at this time, okay? Thank you so much for coming out. Keep our officer in your prayers, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
All right,
much.
Prairie Grove Police Department wrapping up a news conference. We've been following this since about 8:30, 8:45 this evening after a domestic disturbance call happened in Prairie Grove. We have now learned that one police officer, Prairie Grove police officer, was shot, taken to the hospital. Name is not being released because they don't know his condition just yet. And one suspect also was injured in some way after some gunfire. He was also taken to the hospital.
Yeah, and he has been identified as 42-year-old Nicholas Colbert. Again, he has been injured. They're not sure whether he was shot in that gunfire or injured in some other way in that exchange. They have asked the Washington County Sheriff's Office to step in and continue to investigate exactly what's going on here. And as you just heard, this investigation very early on,
Yes.
all of this just wrapping up here moments ago and all transpiring in the last couple of hours or so. But eyewitnesses on the scene told 5 News that there were many law enforcement agencies from across Washington County on the scene here tonight. Lincoln, Prairie Grove, Farmington, Fayetteville, Springdale, ATF, FBI,
yeah.
DEA, Washington County, all out there helping. And as you heard the police officer say there, really a great network of law enforcement coming together in this case with this call for domestic disturbance that turned into an exchange of gunfire, injuring that Prairie Grove police officer tonight.
Yeah, and you heard O'Brien say that this was the first time he's ever had to deal with something like this in the 15 years that he's been at Prairie Grove. They're hoping to do an update or have an update for us sometime in the morning. In the meantime, we'll do the best we can to get more information about this and put it on our website at 5newsonline.com.
Yeah, make sure you download our 5 News app as well. We'll push out breaking news alerts there, and then you can join us starting at 4:30 for your 5 News this morning with any breaking news alerts as well right here on Channel 5.
All right, thanks for joining us. We'll send you back.